Let's talk about the Bucks because that Giannis quote. I'm not going to focus too much on that 250, like whether he would actually score 250.
Yeah, don't worry about that math.
Yeah, but he might actually, Dan, he might actually need to score around that or just a little bit higher than where he is that right now because Damian Lillard, unfortunately, has been diagnosed with DVT, a deep vein thrombosis in his leg. And that is the second big name recently, Victor Wembanyama, who has had a blood clot in his leg, and it looks like he's going to be out indefinitely. There is some talk, Dan, as you wrote about for Yahoo Sports, about him coming back this season. There's some debate about that. And it really, as it comes down to the blood thinners that he has to go on to release that blood clot and make sure that it doesn't get up into his lungs or pulmonary embolism, something that Chris Bosh was dealing with in the Miami Heat. And that was 2 blood clots that Chris Bosh had in Miami. So this is not exactly a Chris Bosh situation. His career is not over. There's talk, as you wrote about, from the Milwaukee Bucks saying, we hope this is going to be a weekly thing rather than a career-ending thing. And they have a lot of optimism that he will be back before long. This obviously is a devastating blow to the Milwaukee Bucks, Dan. I don't know where they go from here. Kyle Kuzma is suddenly going to be thrust into the number 2 role for the Milwaukee Bucks. And first and foremost, just obviously, we hope for a speedy recovery for Damian Lillard. This is a scary situation for him and his family. But on-court stuff, the Milwaukee Bucks, they were already struggling to get any sort of chemistry with Giannis and Damian Lillard on the floor. Now you take Damian Lillard off the floor, and I wonder what does that do to Giannis and his game, and also what that means for this offseason. Do you have any thoughts on like where the Milwaukee Bucks go from here?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge that they're going to have, as you mentioned, is just who is your number 2 offensive option behind Giannis, right? And so with Damian Lillard out of the lineup, the next highest scorer on the Bucks is Kyle Kuzma at 14.1 points per game. He's shooting 29.4% from 3 since he got to Milwaukee. And then your number 3 guy after that is Bobby Portis, who is not available because he's still serving that 25-game suspension for violating the league's anti-drug policy. So it was performance-enhancing drug policy, rather. So there's just not a lot of consistent, steady shot creation, shot making options. So I think the analogy or the analogous move for the Bucks here might be like when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love were hurt for the Cavs in that finals against the Warriors. And it was just, we're going to play dinosaur ball for the Cavs. And it's like, LeBron's going to take, he gets his 37 shots or whatever he winds up doing. But like, we are going to play as big and as physical and as, muddy the game up, drag the game into the mud defense as they can. The number that I think is worth knowing here is that in non-Damian Lillard minutes this season, the Bucks have allowed 111 points per 100 possessions. And that's according to Cleaning the Glass. It would be the second best defense in the league over the course of the full season. Only OKC is below that. So the offense has been pretty brutal, especially in the minutes where Giannis is off the floor and Dame's off the floor, which obviously Giannis can't go the full 48 the entire time while Dame's gone. So there's going to be plenty of time where they're both off the floor. And in those minutes, the Bucks have scored like the Wizards, basically. So not where you want to be. But if you can muck the game up, and that's what the phrase Giannis used when he talked to Eric Name of The Athletic, like muck the game up. We can play huge. We got great length. We've got guys who can be physical and push teams off their spots and then play off of that, whether it's creating turnovers or getting misses. Giannis gets the rebound and then it's end-to-end pushing. That kind of approach, I think that's the style they're going to have to go with. And the question is just like, is that going to be enough for a team that, as you mentioned, was already like kind of in danger of falling down to that number 6 seed line and, being at best a coin flip series in the opening round of the playoffs?
Yeah. They got to be really thrilled that the Miami Heat went into a nosedive because any team, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami, if they were just treading water this year and just being like 500 ball, that 6th slot in the East would be really interesting, but because there's such a buffer between the Milwaukee Bucks, who are in the 5th seed as this recording, 40 and 31. The Pistons are at 41 and 32. The Atlanta Hawks at the 7th slot are 5.5 games back. Right. So there's no real worry on the Milwaukee Bucks side of missing the playoffs at this point. It's a little late in the game for that. But I do wonder if they reevaluate everything this offseason. I'm not saying trade Giannis, but I'm saying with this diagnosis with Damian Lillard, they're not going to be able to get full value for Damian Lillard, even if they wanted to put him on the trade block in this offseason, because I think even that question was in the realm of possibility when you look at these numbers. Okay. Dame and Giannis, when they were on the floor together this season, 115.7 points every 100 possessions. Halliburton and Siakam, 117. Okay. So they were at 115, Siakam and Halliburton at 117. KD and Booker, 117. DeMar DeRozan and Sabonis, 118. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, 118. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams, 118. Brunson and Cat, 119. And Jamal Murray and Jokic, 127. Which, by the way, 127 offensive rating for Jamal Murray and Jokic, and no one else is above 120 is insane. Yeah. Point being is that they already had questions about Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo before this happened. And now they got some really tough questions to ask themselves. Does Giannis want to keep this going another year with Doc Rivers and Damian Lillard and Brook Lopez, or are they just going to hit the reset button? And it's the same question that the Dallas Mavericks are having right now with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. Is like, man, next season is going to be pretty rough unless we figure something out with these older guys and building on this core that haven't really come together. And the same question for Philadelphia. And I wonder, is the calculus for all of these GMs and ownership groups with the Phoenix Suns and how they've been struggling this season, what is that going to do for the 30-somethings on Supermax or maximum deals? Are they going to reevaluate if going all in on these star trios or star duos is really going to be such a premium for these front offices? And the old adage is like, you need 3 stars to compete at the highest levels to win a championship. You need 2 Hall of Famers, 3 Hall of Famers. And I wonder if OKC wins this whole thing this year, if that really is going to be challenged. This idea of you have to go get a Damian Lillard if you want to win a championship. You have to go get Paul George, Joel Embiid, and pair him with Tyrese Maxey. And maybe that going all in on these 3 stars is going to be a different calculus going forward.